Okay, here we go. Didn't crash immediately. That's a good sign. Woo! Yeah, this is working well. Cool. Well, welcome to my live stream, guys. This is a neat one because it's my garage. A little messy. I got a lot of stuff. That's kind of why I needed a garage in the first place. But yes, this is a neat stream because I'm live from my garage, which is kind of, different from anything that's been in the stream so far. I apologize if there's any issues with audio or the video is super jerky, but let me know if you do have any, if you see any things like that, and I'll try to fix it as best as I can. But yeah, so this is my garage. I have it set up today for working on Faceshell stuff. I'm going to be cutting eye holes and then also drilling these face holes as well. I do that with my drill press, which is over on the other side of that bank of tools. But yeah, so I'm going to kind of be going through that different stages. Here are the different stages here. You go from shell with everything intact, cut out the eye holes, drill holes here, and then these are, well, this is just a different variety of shell. This is ASM1 shell. And I'm actually going to do a similar thing that I've got going over here. This is just the same kind of shell, but I painted it with flat gray paint so that it works for photogrammetry. And so I'm going to do the same thing to an ASM1 shell, but I'll do that in a minute here. Get it all ready in my super fancy paint box. I'm also going to give you a little tour here of what my workshop and just house in general looks like. It's a little crazy, it's a little messy, but that's just kind of who I am. Will puts up with it somehow. Will is my roommate. But yeah, so that's just my cardboard box that I use for painting everything I paint pretty much. And basically, here's the rest of my house that you've probably seen in streams. There's the kitchen that we streamed vacuum forming from. Here's my workshop in its current state. Here's that MCU mask template that I'll be completing maybe later today. I might pick back up with that later today in kind of a different segment of the stream. I might set up in my standard form here. Then here's my living room. This is my main workstation over here / our TV. Here are the display for some of my favorite masks, like Batman here. That one looks pretty good. Yeah, I don't know if you can see out here, but I've got a little garden going, feed birds and stuff. Pretty cool. Pretty nice having that kind of space. It's rare in Los Angeles to have that kind of space. Well, I hear myself because I'm heading up here. Here's Will. This is Will's office up here. This is where he does his sound editing, and he's got a projector up there, and he can project movies up on there. Pretty cool stuff. Then there are bedrooms and bathroom, but that's basically it. And the big map of Westeros here really helps when Game of Thrones time comes around. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna go work in the garage now. I bet this is a little sickening. That's funny. Funny you should mention rent. It's actually not that high. If you know where to look, which usually means not on the internet where everyone else is looking, you can find rent for affordable prices. But yeah, it's and I'm also I'm not in the nicest part of Los Angeles. I'm in Van Nuys. If you know anything about Los Angeles, Van Nuys is not the nicest part. I actually really like it. I love just the climate and everything. So I like it a lot. But a lot of what we're going to be talking about today, getting back to shell making stuff, is the Dremel and then also the drill press, which is right here. With the Dremel, the Dremel is one of the most key tools you can have in your workshop. It can cut through, just about any material. Obviously, there's some things like thicker materials it's not as good at, but it's just a rotary tool, so it's really good at cutting and sanding a lot of different things, like metal and stuff. This thing can cut through plate metal. I've used it to cut out batarangs and stuff before. And I do a lot of sanding and cutting on the face shells specifically. Also, I want to talk about my box here. You're probably wondering what this is. This is a custom sanding box that I've made. You've probably seen me open and close this. But it totally creates a vacuum inside of the box. And then it's got these fabric sleeves here that you can wear gloves or anything here. And basically this allows you to just go crazy with a Dremel. And it's got a fan on the back of the box here. If we move over here. So it's got a fan on the back there that brings air in through the filter. And then, that's just a simple air filter back there. So that catches all the dust and everything. And then finally I have a little vacuum opening down in the corner there. And that's just so that you suck up the larger dust fragments that don't go down. And then also with the drill press, the reason I do the drill press, you can use just a normal drill like this. This is a standard corded power drill, or you can use a cordless one. I have all of those. But I use the drill press because you can just turn the drill press on and then just move the shell around the drill bit and take the holes out easily. So it's pretty easy. Yeah, someone just commented about Spider-Man. There he is. Cool. Well, without further ado, what you do when you're about to do this, this is the trimming portion that I usually pick up on right after I've done vacuum forming, and I've vacuum formed a couple shells, and so I have those ready. But this is just the trimming portion, so once you pick up with this, it's already on here, but you want to outline with a silver Sharpie. That's what I use, or anything that's visible, really. You want to outline the hole that you're going to cut, because it's a lot easier than just guessing what you're going to cut out. And sometimes I go off of that a little bit. You can see a little bit of silver Sharpie right there, but it's just an overall good guide for where you want to cut all that out. So take it into my sanding booth. I wear gloves just because, you never know. Never know when something's going to slip and hurt your hands. Okay. Guess I'll just use different gloves here. So how about this weird first-person view? Is it too crazy? Does it make people sick, or is it suitable? I guess we'll see here now that I'm actually going to get some work done, because otherwise it's a little bit of a crazy thing. It's like that movie that just came out like last year, where the whole movie is first person. I like it because the delay is only like a couple of seconds, I think. It's a lot quicker than the other one that I've got. Okay, so this is, I'm going to say right now, cutting with the Dremel sometimes can basically be about as loud as a thing gets. Let me look really quick at my phone just to see how I would go about muting really quick if I needed to. Oh well, I can turn the Dremel off. If it's really loud, you guys can comment, or will probably run down here and let me know. But either way, Hardcore Henry. Yeah, that's the name of the movie where the whole thing was in first person. That's funny. Yeah. Hardcore Henry tutorials. So yeah. Angry Henry, that's funny. Okay, so yeah, if it's too loud, let me know. Be ready on your volume. And you might as well go to a high RPM. And also, before I start cutting, I'm going to use this. This is just like a cutting blade. It's just a spinning, cutting, like sort of like a drill bit that just allows you to cut in any direction. But it does create a lot of like flashing and melted plastic on the edge of it, but it only makes it on the edge in the direction that it's spinning. I think it spins clockwise, so it makes all of its like flashing on the right side. Yeah, that's clockwise. It spins clockwise, so it makes all of the like mess on the right side. So that means I want to go clockwise around the eye hole, and then all of the mess is on the inner piece and not on the shell piece. If I go the other direction, then the mess would be on the shell piece, not on the middle piece. And you'll see what I'm talking about here. Like that. Since that was kind of like the loudest, nastiest squeak it likes to make, that wasn't super bad, right? That didn't break anyone's ears, I hope. If I don't see any responses, I'm just going to keep going on. Okay, cool. Thank you, Will. Boom. Okay, this will let me show you what I was talking about. Oh, that's good. Glad it wasn't loud. Yeah, here's I get a chance to tell you what I was talking about. So you can see on this piece, there's a lot more of that like ripply nastiness on the edge, but then on the shell, it's nice and clean. It actually looks like a pretty machined, clean cut. And that would have been the opposite if I had gone the other direction. That's something, it took me a couple shells before I realized, oh, maybe I should go the other way. I keep getting a bunch of gross stuff around the edges. Loud stuff again, although apparently it's not that bad. How well can you hear me over the drilling? That's what I want to know. While I'm cutting right now, is it difficult for you to hear me? Because my mouth is way closer to the microphone. That's good. Because that would be helpful. I'll be able to actually talk while I do loud stuff and not have to worry about it. Actually, I mean, I really like this setup a lot because I can work. I can get things done. Oops. All right. Yeah, I had the idea for this first person stream this morning, and a couple of wires and stuff later, and here I am. You're in my head while I work. So yeah, I really like this setup. It's kind of a neat style. I look really foolish right now, but that doesn't matter. You don't know that. Amazing Spider-Man Kid's asking where you can buy these masks. Unfortunately, Spider-Man Kid, I'm just super backed up on these. That's why I'm doing the stream on these today, is that it's just, I'm really super backed up on these orders. And, because of that, you really can't right now. There are a lot of other sellers out there, I'll say. You can go and probably get one from like T-Jack or any of those other sellers. But I will have options in the future, like 3D printable shells, which I actually think are going to be pretty crazy. I think they're going to be awesome. They're gonna look really cool. All of the ventilation holes will be printed, and it'll basically just be a really sturdy, strong mesh around that will make up the shape of the face shell once I've got them 3D printable, and that will make the chin flexible, so the jaw will actually be able to go up and down. So I think once I actually get that design going, it's gonna be pretty crazy. Like I kind of feel like right now I'm showing you the old-fashioned way to do this, because as soon as I have that 3D printable version up and running, that's going to be the way to do this. That's going to be the way to do it going forward. But it's still good to know how to do this for your own projects, because if you want to do this for any other plastic piece you need to cut, then it's good to know how. Okay, so I cut the plastic out of the eye hole, but now I need to sand it and refine it a little bit. You don't want it to just be that rough and kind of jagged shape. I mean, people kind of expect a degree of excellence, so it's a lot of refining that goes into it. Amazing Spider-Man Kid just asked, how do you make the fogless lenses? I would say go back to one of the streams at the beginning. Any of the streams at the beginning, like either the first, the third, or and then there's one in the middle. I've worked on face shells a couple times, and in one of those streams, I've gone pretty in depth into how to make the fog-free lenses. Basically, it's just plastic mesh that you heat up and you sandwich in between your clear lenses, and then you have the shape in the plastic, and that's it. Yeah, I've done that a couple times in different streams, so if you want to, just go back and look at that. Another cool thing about this box is I've got some magnets and stuff up here and hooks, so I've just got all my stuff just right there. Hey, David. Nice to see you. David, am I pronouncing your name right, or is it just David? But there's an E on the end. Let me know either way. But anyway, you could totally do metal fog-free lenses, but that would involve, like, basically you could just do that if you got some speaker mesh, and that would be like a blacksmithing. You just need a curved anvil type shape, and you'd have to sit there and work at it. That's not really my style. I don't sit there and work at every individual piece like that. I'm more interested in figuring out ways to make molds and duplicate things like that. And I don't think the metal is necessarily necessary, really. I mean, necessarily necessary. But yeah, I mean, it's possible. If you wanted to do that, go for it. All you'd have to do is really take something like speaker mesh, because that's metal mesh, and then just hit it like look for metal armor tutorials on YouTube, and they teach you how to pound out curved shapes. And you basically just have to do that, and then you'd have to kind of like grind it and sand it and stuff. But you could get a curved metal mesh that way. Okay, so what I'm doing right here, this is sandpaper, a bunch of little flaps of sandpaper on this bit, and I use this for a lot of my sanding because it's just fast, and when it wears down, it just wears down at these flaps of sandpaper, and then I have a bunch more to replace it with. And the smaller it gets, the more detailed things it can do. It can get into little nooks and crannies. So I use the more worn down ones for little details, and then I'll use the newer, fresher ones for kind of like cleaning up around the edges and stuff. It makes it go really, really fast. Yeah, David, that's true. You can, David. Please tell me if I'm pronouncing your name right. I imagine I guess I am. I'll just assume I am. David said that it's possible for kids to like punch your eyes. Yeah, if you were worried about that, like if you were going to be around a bunch of kids, Honestly, the fog-free lenses that I make are really pretty durable. It's just like a thinner, like a wiffle ball. If you know what a wiffle ball is, that's just like a kid's toy ball that has a bunch of perforations in it, but it's a much thinner plastic, so it can kind of bend and contort. So if a kid were to like punch your eye, the worst thing that would happen is it might like push in a little bit. It might like poke in, but then you'd be able to just poke it right back out. I don't think it would actually legitimately damage it in any way. So I'm just trying to get this Sharpie off the edge here. So what? Like David? Just David? David? Is that how you pronounce it? Maybe David has a little bit more of a lag since he's in another country. Yeah, I'm just gonna pronounce it David. He'll know I'm talking about him. Yeah, that's cool. Thanks for tuning in from so far away. I really enjoy the sort of worldwide aspect of all of this. Got a lot of people in other countries. It's neat. We're all becoming one big global community. Like, when are we ever going to go to war again? We're all too good of friends. That's pretty funny. Yeah, that's the advantage of doing the stream this early. Another reason why I'm doing the stream the way I am today, I had considered just not doing a stream at all today. I was thinking that because I need to do this work, I need to work on these face shells, that I wouldn't stream at all. Because, there are going to be times when I'm not going to be able to stream. Either there will be, I'll have a work commitment, or I'll have to have a meeting, or, I'll be out of town. So there will be times that, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to stream. And so I thought about that today. I was like, okay, well, this could be one of those times when I don't stream. But then I also thought about it, and I was like, well, to make that fair, I should probably have times when I randomly stream on off days, like maybe randomly stream on a Monday or a Wednesday or a Friday, and add streams like that. And then that makes it a little more understandable. If I have to skip a stream day, then I'll have some of these where I start early, or maybe I stream on an off day, and it's kind of a nice little bonus to kind of counteract, potential off days. Yeah, but otherwise it's nice. I love doing these streams while I do, this catch up on this shell work in the little bit of time I can on these free days. I love doing the streams too, so it's nice to kind of be able to merge both work groups together, because I have to get this done and I have to keep the stream going. So, that might mean that I have to stream more. Ultimately, I'll have to find more times when I can stream and get both shell and MCU work done. But I love the idea of just having it all up onto YouTube very quickly. Okay, so I've cleaned those eye sockets out a lot. The final bit of cleaning to do on those will be just with actual sandpaper. I'll just go along the edge and clean it with actual sandpaper to keep it from being sharp and from being unfinished, essentially. Now, one step here that's pretty important when doing cleaning up here, when you vacuform these shells, you have these magnet divots in here. You can probably see it a little bit right there above my fingertip. It's that little like dot, it's that little bubble, and that's where the plastic was pressed into the magnet groove. And all this little bubble of plastic is essentially excess plastic that's going to get between your magnet and the magnet in the lens. So that's just, and it's also going to make it difficult to glue your magnet on this side down because you don't have a flat surface to glue to. You have this bump, this spherical bump, and so it's only going to glue to one end and be more likely to crack off or pop off at some point. And so while I'm in this stage, I just take my Dremel and I take this worn out sanding pad because it's also got a sort of rounded tip up on this top edge, and so it's able to kind of get in at an angle and still put a flat surface on it without so I'll go ahead and start sanding those little bumps now. David just made a comment about how on the 3D model he'd like it if I went a little further on the movie accuracy on the movie design, and I know exactly what you mean, David, because from the reference photos, if you look at the reference photos on Amazing Spider-Man 2, he does have a face shell like this. There is a plastic shell. It's made out of some glossy red material. I think it's a clear material that they painted red on the inside, but he does have a shell, but he has an extra component around the lens, and it's sort of like an extra lens frame. And what it is it's this component on the shell. It sinks in and it fits in there, but it glues to the mask. It attaches to the mask, and what that does is that allows the mask, every time the mask has a plastic ring glued inside of it, so every time you put the mask on over the face shell, those rings sink into the lens sockets like what you've got here. So basically these would just be slightly larger, and that ring sinks into the lens socket, and then the lenses go in on top of the mask and on top of that ring. And I've known about that since basically the spy shots were released, because it's pretty clear when he has his mask off that there's some structure inside the mask, and then it's also, for that to happen, there has to be an indentation. And the brilliant thing about that is it really it allows you to always line the mask up perfectly. The one thing about that, though, is there are some technical challenges to that. Like you'd have to have multiples, I think. You'd have to have multiples of those rings, because the face shell wouldn't really work on its own and with the lens. You'd at least need one extra ring to fill out the groove when you don't have that one mask on there, or if you have it like on display, or if you're wearing another suit. Like these ones are more versatile. Like, yeah, it is hard to align the mask, but you can take this shell and this lens and use it on any Spider-Man costume that can, it can squeeze into. Whereas if you have that ring system, you have to at least have that extra ring, or you have to have a ring for every suit that you want to wear it on. And then if you're gluing it to that suit, you can't wear another suit's face shell. Like you wouldn't be able to like mix and match face shell designs. So there are some realities to that which are that kind of are a little bit of a, there are pros and there are cons, essentially. And that's one of the worst ones, is that if you're really going for a super accurate ASM2, it's not like that is that big of a deal to you. But if you're wanting to use other face shells and lenses, then you'd have to be able to remove that ring. Maybe you could do that. Maybe you could have it so that ring like pinches the fabric or something, and rather than being glued into it. That's the kind of thing you can do with 3D printing. I'm serious. I'm dead serious. I could actually design something like that, and you guys could be printing it as soon as I'm finished designing it. So if you don't have a 3D printer yet, get one. Do a little bit of research. Invest a couple $100s in it. It's a tool that you'll use in such unexpected ways. You'll be like, you'll open your silverware drawer, and you'll think, oh, I could 3D print a better silverware organizing rack. Like, there are such little things that 3D printing benefits your life. and it makes nice professional stuff. Like, oh, my nephew's birthday is coming up, his 2nd birthday, and he's really into cars, like the actual cars, not the Disney movie, but he's into cars and all thing cars. So I was thinking, I mean, with my 3D printer, I could print his birthday present. I could print like a little helmet or something. And so, you know, it's amazing what 3D printers can do. So if you don't have one right now, but you're interested in this kind of stuff, and I mean, if you're watching the stream, you must be, then go out and get one. Because you'll use it, and once you get it, it's a lot cheaper. The materials are not that expensive. PLA plastic is pretty cheap, and it lasts for a long time. I printed that whole Birdman helmet on like less than half a spool of filament, so less than $20, less than $10 really. So once you have the plastic in the printer, the costs are going to be negligible. I mean, the costs are going to go way down, and you can do it at home, so it'll be faster and it'll be cheaper. So I'm really excited about the possibility of that. This is like the Stone Age compared to that. Yeah, and Twisted just said a comment that if you don't want to get a 3D printer, there's always Shapeways. And I also am planning to, I've already set up a Shapeways store. And what a Shapeways store allows you to do is, when I make the file for the Spider-Man shell, I'll be able to sell the file directly to you so you can 3D print it at home, but then I can also submit the file to Shapeways, and Shapeways will sell the file for me on my storefront on Shapeways, and basically you'll just have to go to Shapeways and buy it. And so basically you'll be paying the price that it costs for Shapeways to do the printing and the materials, which I don't think is going to be a lot. I'm really going to design these shells so that the materials are scant. You know, it's going to be a sort of a lattice work, like a mesh lattice work of the face shell structure. It's going to look really cool, I think. And it's going to be incredibly functional. So I'm excited, very excited for all of that. But, you know, first things first, I could spend all my time on that, but I've got these guys that are waiting for these, you know, so I have to spend my time on this. Which I don't know if you know me very well or not, but that can be difficult for me. Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in on this, whoa, didn't tighten that enough. On this Thursday afternoon while I get shell work done. I'm not sure if anyone noticed, but I've managed to significantly clean up my YouTube channel and my past live streams and stuff. I've gotten rid of a lot of the fluff, like the intro card that is on the beginning of a lot of my streams. I was able to remove that from my videos, and I've actually figured out a way that I'm going to be able to edit my live streams down to some of just like the most pertinent information and make them short condensed tutorial videos, and then you know, with that it'll save as a separate video, so it won't get rid of this one, but I'll be able to cut it down into, you know, just a couple minutes long. Because if I don't do that, I'm quite aware that if I don't cut my streams down, there might be some other people out there that decide to make their own streams, or not their own streams, their own tutorial videos. And I'm going to ask you guys, I mean, you guys watching right now are some of my greatest helpers. If you do start to see tutorials show up, maybe in other countries, you know, that can kind of be how it happens. But if you see tutorials starting to show up that cover the things in my streams that I'm covering, to be fair, I've covered a lot of stuff, so I can't claim ownership over all of that stuff. But if you do see someone that's just sniping my tutorials or sniping my streams to make their own tutorials and are, you know, claiming everything as their knowledge and things that they know, then please let me know and let the viewers of that tutorial know. I mean, don't, like, I can't stand that kind of ultra competitive, really malevolent behavior, especially in such a cool community like this. Glad I could get you going in this craziness, Spider-Man kid. Spider-Man kid. Why not just Spider Kid? Spider-Man kid. That's funny. Like Gary Coleman, or is he like Benjamin Button? He's Spider-Man, but he's aging backwards, turning into Spider-Man kid. All right, and I haven't really mentioned it, but I'm just going through here, and I'm using my larger, nicer sanding disc here to finish the edge, to make the edge look really nice and refined. Because this is something that rubs up a lot against fabric and skin, so it's got to have like a polished, smooth edge. Otherwise, you're just gonna pay for it later. Well, I won't. I'll pay for it in complaints. Oh yeah, I was gonna mention. Oh, that's sad. That's funny. Spider-Man kid said that Spider Kid was taken. Yeah, that makes sense. I could see that one being taken. David, you just mentioned that there's a Luna Man tutorial. I don't know who you're talking about, but yeah, if you want to send me like maybe an email or a private message with what you're talking about, that'd be good. But it's I can't really act on it until I have quite a bit of evidence that they're sniping my tutorials and not necessarily just I have covered a lot of stuff. I've covered casting, I've covered vacuum forming, I'm covering sanding right now. So already in just a month I've covered all that stuff. So it's hard because I can't just claim ownership over everything. But I think there's definitely a line between claiming ownership over everything and someone watching my streams, picking it apart, and then making their own tutorials out of it, which is like totally shameless. Yeah, also, and since things are getting a little more cleaned up, if you guys, one of the best things that you guys could do for me at this point is I want to start ramping the streams up going forward. Like maybe not so much today because it's just kind of shell work and that's not as exciting. I mean, this kind of work will eventually get into the MCU work. But yeah, if you guys want to like share or any kind of like Spider-Man fan group or page, because I'm pretty sure, or even just like cosplay kind of stuff in general, because I'm pretty sure this is the kind of knowledge that a lot of people could make use of. And I've got enough under my belt at this point, a month of streams, about 16 streams at this point, that I can kind of, confidently put myself out there and advertise at this point. I was a little hesitant to do that in the beginning because we were still dealing with technical stuff, and even today, I dealt with technical stuff with my phone. Of course, my phone needed to update its operating system before I could start live streaming. That's something I probably should have checked before I decided to advertise it on all of the social media sites. But yeah, I think that stuff's going to start to ebb down here, and I'm going to be able to have a little more pride in the stream and share it around to different places. And I'll definitely share it too. I'm going to start advertising more on like the RPF and Spidey Society and things like that. But you guys sharing too helps out because it's kind of more of a word of mouth thing than me self-promoting. But yeah, just tuning in is awesome, is help enough. So thank you for that, guys. And I'm glad to be here. I'm really I love this thing. This stream helps me a lot because it adds a sort of structure to my life that I typically don't have. I love it. I love the way I've managed to craft things in such a way that I'm able to work on certain projects, at the last minute. But when I try to kind of organize and turn it into a business, it always kind of blows up in my face, as you guys watching probably know. So the stream helps so much to keep all of this organized, and it makes me more responsible. There's a responsibility now to get the stream on the air, and it's not even, I want to do it for you guys, but it's also a lot for me, because I know that if I miss a day, that's just a day of stream that I've missed in the future, that'll always not be there. So that's kind of what motivates me at this point. But it's really nice. Yeah, David, I keep calling you David. David wants a more accurate tutorial for going through the sewing. Yeah, I still need to sew that suit for Elfet. I need to sew the ASM1 suit. That's another one on my list of priorities, top list of priorities, along with 8 other things. Because he's been waiting. He's been so wonderfully patient. I don't know if he's watching right now, but he's been wonderfully patient the last 9 months. He's been waiting. I mean, everyone's been waiting about that amount of time for their stuff. That's just kind of a little bit of a glimpse into why everyone's waits so long, why I don't have more of a presence. You see RPC suits everywhere, but you don't really see McLean suits anywhere. Just because I've really failed at all of those business aspects of things up to this point. And so I'm really happy about this kind of change in direction. That's so funny. This is actually helpful. While I've got you guys, here, and I'm live, and some other time zones are able to catch this, because it's the middle of the day here in California. It's a bright, beautiful, sunny day, because it always is. But it's great having you guys in other countries here, because I want to start branching out into other markets as well, because like I've said before earlier in this stream, when I'm doing these live streams, there's kind of a high I leave myself open for someone to come in and kind of poach all of the information from these streams and make their own tutorials out of it. And especially, I think, in other countries where I don't have English is the only language I'm speaking right now. And if someone doesn't understand English, then someone who does and also speaks their language could come in and basically cut me off, basically take the knowledge and get that fan base from another country. So you wonderful viewers in other countries, if you could kind of keep an eye out on that, for one. And I'm not sure what distribution sites and stuff you guys have. Maybe you have different forums and stuff, but if you could share my work there, for one. I'm going to try to cut my streams down into more concise, just the basic information. And then once I've got all of just the basic, cut down streams, YouTube actually lets you allow people to volunteer to add subtitles and stuff. So I think that'd be really cool for a worldwide audience. Flubdub just perfect timing. Flubdub just asked if he could add subtitles, and yeah, that's exactly what I was just talking about. Because I want to do those concise videos. I mean, subtitles for a 5-hour stream or even a 2-hour stream, that's pretty intense. But subtitles for a 15-minute or a 10-minute video would be a lot more manageable and helpful too, because that's what people are going to care about, I think, at the end of the day. Okay, so back to work a little bit. This is a Dremel Multi-Pro, for someone who asked. It comes with this nice kit right here that has, a bunch of bits and things like that in it. But yeah, I use this thing a lot. for different cutting things. I'm sanding at a really flush angle with like the inside of the shell, because you just don't want any sharp edges around the edges at all. Because if you do have a sharp edge around that edge, that's where like your cheek or your neck will kind of poke up into it and it'll hurt, especially after a couple hours. Oh, sorry. I thought you asked what Dremel I was using. What Dremel bit? The Dremel bit is like this, it's like a sandpaper bit. It's just a bunch of little flaps of sandpaper. If you go to like a hardware store, it'll be in the Dremel bit section. It costs, around $10, but it lasts for a while, and it's really helpful. So I use this thing all the time. Okay, so this one's pretty well sanded around the edge. I like to make sure that, I've got this little gap up here. That is how it relieves stressor, is how it relieves pressure and can go onto your head, and also how it gets off the vacuum form buck. But you just don't want that to be two sharp corners right there, because it can pinch, it could pinch your skin, it could pinch anything. So you just want two nice, like, rounded edges going into there. Yeah, Maximus just mentioned that he purchased a shell from someone once, and the eye holes were very rough and unfinished. And yeah, I mean, that kind of it all just depends on. I've had moments where, I have so many face shells to do, and I still do. I have so many face shells to do. I could sacrifice quality. I could make them lower quality, and that would get them out faster. I just spent a lot of time just on sanding those eye holes, but that's not what people come to me for. They don't come to me for, rough eye holes. And someone said that my face shells and lenses are kind of like the Ferrari of Spider-Man face shells and lenses, and I thought that was really funny. But when someone says that about your work, I kind of like, oh shoot, I better kind of keep up to that that standard of work and not let it slip or slide. I'm gonna paint some stuff really quick. David just asked if there's no glue on that top release point. No, I leave that open. I leave this little slice open, and I drill a hole right here. This one has it. I drill a hole at the top of that slice so that it can't tear or bend or anything. But it helps to relieve pressure, and then makes it so that the shell can fit onto a larger head. And then, if you wanted to, you could glue it or tape it or something like that. This thing's dusty. Okay, so what I'm doing right now, I'm kind of ADD right here. I'm gonna paint this ASM1 shell with primer to get it ready for the photogrammetry process. Which, if you've been watching my live streams, that's what I did here. I painted it with primer, which gets rid of this glossy shine, because when you're doing photogrammetry is just taking a bunch of pictures of an object, and then a computer program stitches those pictures together and creates a 3D model based off of the pictures it's taken. And if it's glossy and shiny, it's a lot more difficult, so you have to prime it. And so I'm doing that right now because it's kind of just a lesson in time management. Like, if you have something to paint or something else to work on, like another project, you can kind of do that stuff. You can work on other stuff. Like, this photogrammetry this is work sort of towards the MCU suit, because once I have this ASM1 photogrammed, since I'm working on that one particularly, I'm going to use that as the base for the MCU shell. And the moving lenses and everything, I'm pretty sure that's all going to be in the computer, because I can just design all of that just perfectly to the thicknesses of everything, all the components and everything, and then I'll be able to sell that 3D file, and you guys will be able to print it and have it at home. And then also you'll be able to have the shell, and I've already mentioned that the shell is operated by puppetry. It's not servos or Arduino or anything like that other suits have. It's all just cables and wires and stuff. But with the way the shell will be constructed, you could conceivably wire it up with like servos or Arduino or something like that. It would just be kind of if you wanted to do that. I don't have a ton of experience with servos and all that kind of stuff, so that's why I stick to like puppetry and stuff. Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah. So I'm painting here. So hopefully this doesn't like come up and get on my phone lens. It might a little bit, but that's not the worst thing in the world. I like to lift up whenever I'm painting off the surface. And you can see this cardboard box is pretty nasty. It's just like an old TV box that I cut in half so it opens up, so it kind of stores flat nicely. Then it opens up, and then I put some plastic on either end, like kind of plastic webbing, so that it keeps the paint, the spill of paint, because you really have to be careful with spray paint. It'll just create a dust of paint. I also usually like to have a bigger fan, this fan right here, just shooting in the general direction of where I'm painting, so that it pushes that dust, that paint dust, away from everything else. And then with that, I'm pretty confident to just paint in my garage right here, because you're kind of controlling all of that overflow and dust and stuff. When I was younger, I was really bad about painting like on the side of my house and getting spray paint everywhere, and I was really bad. I was a nightmare. All right, so here's spray painting. This is how you do it. Just doing strokes at a time, back and forth, and I'll do a thinner coat at first, and then I'll come back later and put on another coat. Good rule of thumb, it's just better to go too thin than too thick. Like, it's spotty in some areas, but it's also getting thicker in some others. So if I keep painting, then some of those areas are gonna, kind of puddle up and get really nasty. And it's easy enough to just paint on another layer once this one is dried. And you should get a respirator. If you're doing this, get a respirator. There's really no if and but about it, because there's no reason to be damaging your lungs ever to do this stuff. It's not worth it, because you won't pay for it now. You'll pay for it way down the road when you actually have something that you care about, like a family and a life you've established. It's kind of you don't want to set yourself up for that someday. So wear a respirator, wear a dust mask, don't breathe in small particles, don't do fiberglass stuff in a tool room in your basement like I did, and just let the fumes destroy your nose. Okay, so I've got a pretty good starter coat on that, so I can leave that alone and forget about it for a while. Come see what comments you guys are leaving here. Yeah, Twisted, I missed your comment for a little while. Sorry, yeah, the rare earth magnets, that's what they're basically called. They're earth magnets, rare earth magnets. That's all you need to search. I buy mine online, and I buy them in bulk because I need so many of them. But yeah, you can go online, and that's what this is right here. That's a rare earth magnet. Yeah, and Amazon's really good for them, and other places like that. But you don't need like a very large size. I actually have smaller diameter, like 1/8 inch. And also, some sizes are more expensive than others, I've noticed. If it's a more specialty size, not like more common, it'll be more expensive. So if you find a common size, like 1/8 inch rare earth magnets, those are pretty good for a lot of stuff. I use rare earth magnets for a lot of things. Okay, so neat. So what I'm going to do now is drill some stuff. Figure out which shell I was just working on. Probably this one. Yeah, okay. So now I'm going to drill some air holes. And basically, here's my air hole design. You can see the two next to each other there. It's a pretty large ventilation hole design. You can see that it's got a ton down here and quite a few up here. The reason for having so many down here is that you really don't need, that much plastic. Like, this is how much this is basically what I want my 3D printed shell to look a lot like. Just this kind of lattice work of plastic, strong enough to, it'll have thicker support structures going through it so it doesn't, just shatter or break or anything. But this open so that it's really able to breathe, doesn't get hot at all, essentially. And that's why I have so many in the mouth area here. And then also, it doesn't sound like a shell over your head at all with how many air holes I have here. It doesn't have that echoey sort of shell sound you get. You even hear that echoey shell sound in the first Spider-Man movie because they didn't have enough air holes and they also didn't do a moving jaw, so when he talks it kind of has a noise to it. Okay, so what I do is I have this template made, and it's basically an old defective face shell that I just drilled all of my the design of my holes in. I drilled the design of my holes in, and I drilled the design of my holes into this, and all you have to do is overlay that onto the shell that you're working on, and you can use that as sort of like a master thing for drilling all of your holes. Yeah, okay. So what I do here is I get them lined up, and there's a little bit of poster tack actually on both sides and on the nose in here. Clean it off a little bit and it gets it tacky again. I use that to just kind of keep it really well secured so it doesn't roll around at all. And I've got like the drill bits that I like to use all, set up here in just a 2x4, a chunk of 2x4, so they're all just, ready to go. And this is the drill bit that will be my first few pilot holes right here. And so what I'm going to do Ooh, the imposter Flubdub is here. Oops. Don't worry, Flubdub. I'll protect you. I'll protect your identity. Let's get rid of that guy right now. BRB. Here, I get to use my my commercial screen here. Okay, here. I'll get this figured out eventually. This is ridiculous. Yeah, maybe this. I'll get this figured out first next time. How about that? Ugh. It's hard. Does not want to sit where I want to put it. Oh well, you get the idea. There we go. Jeez, sit still, phone. Does not want to cooperate at all. Okay, that's totally just gonna fall over.
Oh well, you get it. Okay. I'm back. Got to get rid of the fake flub dub. I'm excited about that. I've always wondered about that. I've seen that in a couple streams now. Flub dub is one of my most loyal viewers here, and bothers me that occasionally this fake flub dub will show up, and it clearly bothers him too. And so I'm glad I'm able to finally catch it and block that guy. I think it's probably one person out there that keeps kind of putting all this stuff out there, but it's really easy to, I mean, you can block accounts as fast as they can be made. So, oh yeah, other side. Okay, pick up where I left off here. So, I've got this older shell that's just been trimmed so that it sits on here a little nicer. Yeah, you guys just asked who the imposter flub dub was. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I knew which one is the real one. The one that, has comments and stuff. Insightful comments that actually participate. So I've just banned the other one. Maximus asked if I went to college for like costume design or anything. No, I went to college for theater mostly, so I did a lot of costume design stuff there. Right now I'm just really making sure that the holes are lined up properly, because I only kind of get one chance to make sure that they are and that they're not all over the place. Because this pilot hole kind of makes the whole thing. So I just take a little nut here, or not a nut, a bolt. Stick it through, and it's perfect size for the air holes. And then I take a wing nut. And so that air hole acts as like a locking mechanism on the bottom there. And so now I want to go ahead and line up the top. And it doesn't really matter. I mean, face shells are an understructure. The important thing is how they look with the mask on top. So these can be a little crooked. They're not always going to be perfectly straight. If you have a face shell from me, I usually don't find out that the holes are slightly crooked until after the fact. But, it's only kind of one of those things that if you're going for absolute perfection, you'd notice, but you can go crazy doing that stuff. Okay, so I like to do one more in the middle here that keeps it nice and sturdy. Yeah, David knows what's up. David just said that a lot of pattern makers aren't very good at assembling their patterns, so it kind of affects the ultimate result. But yeah, I take a lot of pride in knowing how to put pretty much every aspect of these things together. It's the reason that it's like that is I've said in streams before, I am very much a process type of person than I am a product type of person. And what I mean by that is a product type of person is maybe the person who is always posting finished products, a lot of finished products. And it's also, you not necessarily always through making them, but just, you get the finished product a lot. And, there are a lot of people out there that are like that are very product driven. They're product sort of driven, like the end result. I'm very much process. I enjoy figuring out how to do all of this stuff and how to make it. And one of the advantages of that is that a new challenge for me is something I don't know how to do. And so when you're always pursuing what you don't know how to do as a new challenge, as like a new puzzle to be figured out and a new mountain to climb, then you're always just kind of building that ability to figure out different stuff quickly. And it's it's a good way to learn. You just start learning. You inevitably learn every aspect of it because it's fun. The things you don't know are the things you need to focus on. Of course, there's always going to be things you don't know, and no one knows everything. So I don't want to make it sound like that. But it's how you can kind of learn to do a lot of different things. The interest is what drives it, I guess I should say. Okay, so now what I've done is I've moved this drill bit that drills this air hole sized hole, and I'm going to just turn on the drill press and basically sit here for probably about 30 minutes drilling little holes. Or, maybe not that long, maybe only like 15 minutes. I kind of lose track of time sometimes when I do this. But yeah, it's just a matter of turning on the drill press and getting this done. That's cool. David just left a comment. I think about a program for designing fabric patterns, and yeah, I've known for a couple of years about those different different programs. I'd love to actually dive into one of those and start to use it, because I've always been such a tactile type person, just building patterns with my hands, and I've also always like sculpted and things with my hands, but I've started to move over to 3D printing a lot because I like it so much. So I'm sure if I did try a program designed for making fabric patterns, it's pretty amazing what you can do. I can't remember what video I watched, but it was someone making a spacesuit and using a program like that. And so I'm doing the drilling action, and then I have to drill through, and then I have to also move it up and down a little bit, because usually there's this little twisty of plastic. If you don't move up and down a little bit, then that plastic can just sit there on the edge of the hole and make it sharper and rougher. Hi, the channel. Thanks. I like what you are doing, which is watching what I am doing. I really like today's stream. I really like this format because I'm able to just work. I don't have to worry about what you guys can see and can't see. I don't have to worry about camera angles. And that stuff, while very important, obviously, can get in the way of actually working quickly, which is, in today's case, what I need to do. I need to work quickly. And so I had this idea earlier today. This morning, I was just like, hey, what if I did it first person? I've always wanted to do it like this. And so I got out some wire, and I rigged together a head mount rig. Maybe I'll show you guys at the end of the stream. That looked pretty ridiculous. If you can imagine what a person with a phone sticking off the front of their face looks like. All right. Man, I'm sad that Legion is over. Although, it's always nice to have a new show starting back up again in a year when you've kind of forgotten about it. Like, I'm sure Game of Thrones will be like that, or Westworld. That would be awesome, the channel, if you could print a whole face shell in one go. But I'm definitely going to design them so they can be done in anywhere from like probably at least 3 pieces, because I'm going to have a flexible jaw piece, and then the other 2 pieces, probably like the top half of the shell could be split in half, either down the middle or other way, longitude versus latitude. Paul just asked how long I think it took me to make the ASM2 pattern file, like the Photoshop dye sublimation pattern file. I worked on it for several years, but obviously it was on and off work. The initial pattern only took me about 3 weeks of work. I actually had a crazy deadline when I first started working on the ASM2 costume, because this was right after they released a bunch of set photos. And it was crazy. I still remember. They released a bunch of set photos, and this was like in late September or August. And these set photos were just so much more detailed than any other set photos I've ever seen, and so early. It was like 10 months before the movie was coming out, and they had so much information about the costume already that I was able to create basically my whole pattern just in that 3 weeks, and from those spy photos. And even my glove pattern, a lot of aspects of my pattern, I updated some stuff. Like my leg pattern was initially inaccurate. I didn't have enough leg panels. My mask pattern was inaccurate. It wasn't split up. It's actually still not totally accurate, but I don't care that much. I don't want to like keep working on it forever and just keep trying, because it's already kind of like Jared has some actual pattern pieces, so it's kind of like that's all sort of obsolete. I think there will always be a place for my costume, but as actual movie pieces leak, it kind of reduces the need for that. But yeah, so I basically took those 3 weeks after those photos released, and my friend Ray Kimber, he lives in Utah, and he has a couple different businesses. He invited me out. You know, he's really into the Spider-Man and Iron Man costumes I've made, and he invited me out to come to Salt Lake City Comic-Con. And I went out there, and I brought this. I had that date, basically. It was like September. I think sometime in September. Yeah, that was the end of September. So I think those pictures probably released in August, because I spent about a month working on that costume. And that's the face shell, the pattern, all of that. And it was crazy to be able to get it done. It wasn't a dye sublimated suit, and I didn't puff paint all of the bricks and everything. I only puff painted the webs. That's a big reason why I was able to get it done so quickly. But I had to do all of the pattern work, create the custom pattern, and make all the test patterns and all of that stuff. The channel, you just asked how much something like what we're looking at right here might end up costing a person. You know, I've always kind of charged too low a price, because I could probably get away with charging like crazy prices for this stuff, but I don't like that. I don't like it being this inaccessible thing, so I've always charged really low prices, and that kind of ends up being a problem for me, because then people order like 10 face shells and like 10 sets of lenses, and then there are 50 different people as soon as I start taking orders that all really, really, really want to place their order, And so basically I end up not taking many orders at all, because I get overloaded on orders. I get overwhelmed. Like with these, the process is just so intense, as you're watching right now. It's an intense process, so it takes a long time, and I kind of undercharged and undersold myself. So it makes it even more difficult to sit down and spend the time on it when I want to be doing things like this stream. So to be able to merge the two together is really helpful. But yeah, so I basically was charging around $250 for like a whole kit. But in the future, I'm going to move towards 3D printing and STL files. And what that's going to mean is I'm thinking I'll probably charge something fair. I can't charge too much or else the file will just leak or someone else will sell it. But I'll charge something fair for the file, for my work going into it. And then you'll just have to buy that and either have a 3D printer or have a friend with a 3D printer or buy it from Shapeways directly. And it'll be a lot cheaper that way. And it'll reduce my labor, which is really, really tough for me. It's one of the biggest things I struggle with is the labor of this. I still have to do this on like a lot more shells, and I have to do it. If I don't do it, it doesn't get done. So it can be a pretty stressful. All of the manufacturing of all this can be stressful. So I understand when people are like, I want to buy that, please let me buy that. But it's like, I don't, I'm not a company. I'm not a warehouse or anything like that. Well, David just said, so you end up working manually and and you will become bored soon. Haha, just a joke. That's what he posted. I mean, there's truth to that. What I'll say is, I'm like the world's biggest scatterbrain. It's kind of the truth, the reality of my situation I'm coming to. I'm the world's biggest scatterbrain, and because of that, I'm able to do things like, at the last minute this morning, I came up with this camera rig so that you're able to see from my perspective. It's not an exactly organized thing for someone to do with, their time. And that's a big component of like the things I struggle with orders, is that kind of scatterbrain aspect I have makes it really, really hard to sit down and plan work on something, especially if it's something I'm not necessarily excited about. And that's, in the case of these ASM2 shells, that's kind of a big factor because the MCU costumes out there, I'm kind of behind. I've kind of gotten stuck on these shells, and I can't help but feel terrible with any work I do on the MCU costume because I need to finish these. And so it's kind of this self-fulfilling prophecy there. But yeah, and an aspect of that scatterbrainness is that, like, it's hard for me not to work on projects that aren't exciting and new. And the like I said, I'm process, not product. This is kind of all product. I'm having to like solely focus on product here. I've figured this out. I've figured out how to do it, and I have to just do it over and over. And that's not really my thing. That's one of the things I struggle with the most. I mean, basically, it's like ADD, just having difficulties focusing on things that you need to focus on. But on the other side of that is kind of where I excel at this stuff. Is that scatterbrainness kind of propels me forward into new ideas. And so it's kind of just it's the yin and the yang of who I am. Yeah, Channel just said it'd be easier to sell kits. I agree. And also, when I was pricing these face shells, I kind of asked around what other makers were charging, and people gave me, answers to what other makers are charging. But one thing they left out is that it seems like most other makers do sell kits. They don't sit and make every face shell. And those people told me what those makers were charging for kits. So I'll be honest, I'm a little bitter about that. I won't name names or anything, and I don't even really remember specifically who it was, but around a year ago, I kind of asked the community, like, hey, how much are people out there charging for face shells? And a few people out there kind of chimed in with the prices for other sellers were charging for kits. And I found that out a few months ago, or not months ago, a few months later, and that kind of frustrated me a little bit. It seemed opportunistic, to be honest, because people kind of convinced me to price my face shells around the same price that other makers were selling for kits. And they didn't mention anything when I kind of was talking about that being my plan. People were definitely saying, like, oh, you could probably charge more, but no one really specifically mentioned that I was charging as much for my face shell as other makers were charging for kits. And so that's another big component for why everyone's been waiting so long. I really undersold these things. And so I said it's a contract. I sold these things, and everyone, it's an agreement that I entered into willingly, but I still made some pretty big mistakes that have contributed to why people are waiting so long for their shells. Because even just now, I've just been drilling the holes in one face shell this entire time, and it's actually kind of laborious work. I have to put a little bit of strength into drilling each hole. But it does pay off. I'm happy to have my prices be low like that, because ultimately I don't want my stuff to be the kind of stuff that only people with high income salaries can afford. Like that, I know that a majority of you guys out there are younger, and I know firsthand how hard it can be to come upon money when you're younger. Our society doesn't value young people practically at all in a monetary sense. It's a huge problem that I'm sure will be addressed in the next few decades, because it leaves you ill-adjusted for adult life. The current baby boomers were able to get jobs at McDonald's and Burger King, but that's just a little bit more difficult for the current generation to do. Yeah, that would be smart. The channel just said that I should just mark the holes and then let people drill them out themselves. Yeah, that's certainly something that I could do to let people take on a little bit of the labor themselves. And also, the channel, just to going further off that thought, that's also why I'm doing these tutorial videos, is because I do want to kind of move into kits and stuff, and it would be nice if I could just sell the face shell and sell the clear lens component, just sell the kit things. And so you have these videos here, these live streams that will be really good to go along with that, and you can just watch these live streams and then get that kit of the face shell and the lenses. So who knows? You might be watching this after it's been filmed, and you might only need to contact me, and that might be available. But I don't know. I'm not totally sure what my plans in the future are with it. Because one thing that it's kind of people beat around the bush with is it's hard to really embrace selling this stuff, because it is not exactly legal. You have to own the rights to characters and things in order to sell merchandise. associated with it, and that's so people can't just like steal your character and use it to sell their own stuff. There definitely is a reason for those rules, and it's hard to just ignore those rules, for me at least, and just embrace this whole business, especially if it's something you kind of put your life into, your future into. You really could just be leaving yourself open to one cease and desist from Disney, and that's it. Your business is done. But yeah, back to the Faceshell. Back to the Faceshell. That's what I'm doing here. I'm working on a Faceshell for Kiss Ass. Oh, Kiss A. I'll be PG here. Yeah, I'm making a Faceshell here and cleaning it up. But now that I've gotten all these holes drilled out, I can move. Oh, it's basically just that bolt down there. There are a couple holes that I wasn't able to drill out. So, how is this how is this stream looking so far, guys? I mean, it's not too shaky or anything. I guess I could try to stay still a little bit. A little bit more, I guess. I don't think I've been shaking around too much. That's cool. Yeah, I like this one a lot so far. It's just easy for me to do it like this. Okay. And so now what I do... Thanks. He just called me awesome. Spider-Man kid. Amazing Benjamin Button Spider-Man kid. Or like Gary Coleman Spider-Man kid. Alright, so now what I do is you need to kind of clean up these holes. You don't want to just leave it with the rough finish from the drill, because it's pretty rough on both sides. And so what I do is I take this beveling bit, and what this does is, you can see it's got a pretty wide angle, and it just goes into the hole and it spins and it cuts out a bevel. And that's just a really nice quality addition. It's another 15 minutes of work for me, but it's a quality addition to the shell for the rest of time. So, uh-oh. Do I have to go play Bandhammer again? Guess so. All right. It's gonna be fun watching this guy make YouTube accounts all day. That's not a pathetic way to spend your time. And done. See how easy that was? I can do that all day. Oops. Made me drop my drill bit. All right. Sorry about that. There we go. I'm back. I don't know what happened. My phone just kind of went off. Is it back? Oh, there we go. Okay, it just caught up. Okay, I don't know why that happened. It just kind of went off. Okay, I don't know where I would have just gotten cut off though. Sorry you had to deal with that flub dub. I know that guy was a jerk. And I think it's just the same guy. It's just one guy that keeps kind of coming into every stream and kind of half trolling, half not trolling. It's a bizarre thing. I mean, it's obviously just a bizarre person. But anyway, I kind of have a theory that there are some people out there that make a lot of money off of Spider-Man stuff like this. And what they're making money off of specifically is your lack of knowledge, your inability to make a face shell, your inability to do these things. And so when I teach you to do that, it kind of interferes with their business a little bit. So that's sort of my theory on why those people might be out there and acting that way. But you know, they can do that all they want. It's really easy to block someone. Just let me know. You know, I'll give someone the benefit of the doubt if they're just kind of acting weird. Maybe they're just a little bizarre, but if they start to, you know, swear and say weird stuff, I'll just block them outright. Because I mean, that person could be out there making another Google account right now, which is so sad. To just sit there making Google account after Google account, because I'm just going to block each one, and at some point Google's going to stop you. I don't think you could just keep making infinite Google accounts. But yeah, that's basically the extent that I'll ever even discuss something like that, because, you know, that's kind of also a mini victory for them if I even mention their name or even mention them. So I'm gonna just start blocking them. I'm not even gonna mention them. Just gonna take a commercial break, block the person, and that'll be it. Maximus asked how I'm keeping my phone on my head right now. Basically, I just bent some wires and I made a headset rig that holds my phone right now, like right in front of my face, so that I can film all this. And it's working really well. I mean, I'm able to see the work, you guys can see the work, you can hear me because the mic is right in front of my mouth, so I don't have to shout over the tool I'm using. It's pretty incredible. It's not the highest quality, but it's actually surprisingly good. Oh, and another thing about the scammer guy is I'll start reporting him too. And when you're getting reported, I mean, you're going to have your actual Google account removed, buddy. Like, I hope you kind of are aware of that. Like, if you have an actual Google account that you're signing in with your phone and, like, your computer, and you actually have, like, Gmail, and you actually talk to people, you're going to get removed. You're going to get banned. They're going to associate it with your IP address. And so I just, like, genuinely recommend you not mess around with Google accounts too much for that reason. Because, I mean, like you saw, you just got 3 comments in before I banned you. So, I mean, you can keep trying. Hey, Spider-Man kid, I'll answer that question finally, because I've seen it a couple times after you've asked it. I have one question. He's asking how to do more, like, complex lenses, like Iron Spider and Kane. Like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean for the Iron Spider? Just like the gold lenses? I'd need more specificity on, like, what you mean. I do want to start doing what other channels do, though, and recommending, or doing your recommendations. So, like, in the comments, if there's a suit you want to see me do, start, like, mentioning it in a comment. Like, leave a comment that's like, hey, do blah 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 suit. And it doesn't have to be Spider-Man, it can be anything. You know, I'm going to be working on the MCU suit, but I'm going to be, like with Birdman, I'm going to be moving around between projects. Because it's good to branch out and work on other things, so that you're not, you know, getting sort of stagnated on one project. You learn more stuff. Like, if you go out and make an Iron Man suit and you learn about how the Iron Man faceplate works, that's how you're able to make the moving lens Spider-Man mask as soon as the trailer drops. Because you have that knowledge kind of in the can already, and you can just deploy it. Okay, so everyone keep in mind how much time has passed since I last banned that guy. because he's been sitting there recreating another Google account this entire time. So we'll probably get another comment from him in a minute or two. And he's been sitting there making a Google account this entire time just to try to disrupt things. Or maybe not. Maybe he's given up. Maybe he realizes it wouldn't be a good idea to have your Google account banned. Because there are quite a few things that function off of Google. And they don't take kindly to people just messing around with other people. Oh, Donnie Skaggs is a new one. That was a normal question, but I'm going to keep my eye on that name. Donnie just mentioned selling a Faceshell. Faceshells is a kit, and that's I mentioned that a few minutes ago, and that's something I would be interested in doing. Basically, just selling the plastic components of the Faceshell that you have over here. Okay, so I've basically, finished off this Faceshell, the finishing aspects of it, in the amount of time that I've sat here for this stream. Which is good because this is Steve's Faceshell, Steve Custer, I believe. I probably shouldn't name him by name. Sorry, Steve C. or S. Custer, maybe. Yeah, so this is his shell, and he needs it soon. So that's a big reason why I'm working on these right now. This one hasn't been beveled yet, so I'm going to go ahead and bevel it really quickly. Yeah, I'm going to keep working on these things because that's what I need to do, what I need to work on today. No worries, Donnie. I have no problem answering questions over and over, or multiple times. But then also, you guys can watch these streams later after the fact. They'll be on the channel if you want. You can watch these Faceshells be vacuformed on an older archived stream. I actually did some vacuforming on Faceshells, so you can look back on that and check it out. Oh yeah, there was just a question about screen printing. About is it hard, and if I have done tutorials on it. To answer that question, yes. Screen printing is pretty hard. Screen printing is a pretty industrial, official process. What you do with screen printing is you take a really fine screen, like a mesh, and you apply a design to it, like a paste to it, that only sticks in the areas that you don't want your pattern to be on the fabric. So basically you're able to put your ink onto this screen, and then you squeegee over the screen, and then when you take the screen off, the ink is left only in the spots where the screen was left open. So you get your design on the screen with an emulsifier and a bunch of other chemicals and stuff. But screen printing can be really hard because you need a lot of facilities. You need workspace. You need a storage because you need a separate screen for everything you're printing. Whereas dye sublimation kind of skirts around that issue because dye sublimation can print whatever image in a pretty wide format straight onto white fabric, and you don't need specialized screens for everything. But it can't do raised, glossy details and stuff, which is what screen printing is really good at. Oh no, my battery's low. Well, that might be the end of this segment of the stream in a little bit. I knew that was going to wear down on my battery. But that's funny. That could be the natural end of the stream when I just go dead. Maybe at that point I'll be able to move inside, because I am basically caught up on this work. I do need to get a few more shells finished. Yeah, maybe what I'll do is take like in a little while, not right now, but I'll take a little break and I'll let my phone charge back up. I need like an extra battery pack or something for it. Twisted, for the size of the rare earth magnets, I use rare earth magnets that are about 1/8 of an inch wide and 1/8 of an inch thick, but they're round. They're circular magnets, which is the most standard shape. And it isn't actually that important. You just have to be careful because if they're too big, the magnets will be the magnetic force will be too strong, and if they're too small, it will be too weak. And so that's one of the biggest things with the size consideration is how strong the magnetic force will be that'll keep your lenses and your face shell together. Yeah, but back on screen printing, which I was talking about, you need the facilities. You need to do a whole bunch of different screens and stuff. There are a lot of chemicals. You need a special dryer that dries the inks or cooks them, because some inks need to be cooked at a high temperature. And so you need a giant oven that's basically like a big pizza oven for your screens to cook the ink. So it can be really intense. And then also, it's not as easy as dye sublimation to just get some company to do it for you. Because with dye sublimation, it's easy for some company to just print a file, to get a file from someone and print it. They probably prefer to do larger quantity orders, but they can still do small orders. Whereas with screen printing, they can't just make one person's costume worth of screen printing. Ah, well. Okay, I'll grab that in a little while. Cool. We'll got a battery pack together, so I'll be able to stream longer if I want to. I might have to make lunch. That might be what it is. I might have to take a lunch break. I'm getting kind of hungry. David, yeah, or sorry, I keep calling you David. David, if the magnets are too strong, yeah, Donnie has the right idea. It will pull the lens from the frames. Like when you go to pull your, so imagine I'm going to pull the face shell off, or I'm going to pull the lens off. If the magnets were really strong, it would be almost like the lens was glued to the mask and to the face shell, and in order to pull, you'd only be able to pull off the frames. But that's probably not going to happen unless you had some really big rare earth magnets inside. And you might need that amount of force if you were doing it through like a thicker costume, like through a lot of thick material. You might need that much magnetism, but for the most part, it's not something that really comes up. Usually people struggle with the magnets not being strong enough. But if that's the case, if your magnets aren't strong enough, if you're using 2 magnets on either side and it's not strong enough, you can always add more magnets to the back. Just keep layering on more and more rare earth magnets, and it makes it into like a bigger magnet, and it will pull the lens magnet to it tighter. It increases that magnetic force without adding any mass to the lens at all. Yeah, Jonathan had a comment about screen printing just now. He's more experienced with screen printing, and so is Elfet Fernando. Both of them are more experienced with screen printing. It's something you really have to get moving in that direction. It's smart because there are so many different superheroes right now that have screen printed effects on their suits. Basically, like every superhero has some degree of screen printing, and also sci-fi, and it's amazing what you can do with screen printing and the effects with it. But you basically need your own warehouse, and you need your own little industrial space to be able to do all the different components of it. And so at that point, you're basically operating a screen printing business, which can be profitable. I mean, some people just open screen printing businesses just to print T-shirts and print things. And if there's a demand for it, if people are buying what you're printing, that's basically all that matters in a business. It is bad if you're breaking the law, but I'm able to work on like orders and stuff, and And that's something I've really had to learn to manage over the last few years. And I've come to a lot happier, resolved place with it, because especially with the stream and with sticking to like digital patterns, like 3D printable stuff, I think that's the future. I mean, even more so than you guys talking about me vacuum forming kits for you, I say no. I say you save whatever money I would have charged you for your kit, and you invest it in a 3D printer, and when I start releasing 3D printable files for every project I work on, you'll basically, for a low cost and a practically non-existent wait time, like I'll be able to release files right after I make them. So I could finish a new Spider-Man movie face shell, and you could be printing it the next day on your printer in your house or your apartment, or in your school's printer, or on a friend's printer. And so I definitely think that that's the way to go. And then I can just keep building a catalog of items, and I can keep teaching you guys how to put them together through this stream. And then there are certain things like lenses that are always going to be hard, but that's why I kind of even try to teach you about vacuum forming. I think I could sell a file for $1, sell a lens buck file. So you would 3D print the lens buck, and then you would just vacuum form it yourself, and that's how you would get your lenses. And so I'm pretty excited about that. I think that that's definitely a solution going forward in all of this work. Okay, so this is that ASM1 shell that I'm going to photogram, which is basically a 3D scan at home, because usually 3D scanners are really giant pieces of, well, they're not always giant. Sometimes you can have a desktop 3D scanner, which would probably work for this, but I'm just using photogrammetry, which is taking a bunch of little pictures, and I've done some streams on this in the past. You use photogrammetry and take a bunch of pictures, and what that allows you to do is not have to have like a big 3D scanner or anything like that. Hey, Elle, thanks for tuning in. But yeah, so that's what I'm working on here, is that photogrammetry. And what I like to do, what I did with the last one at least, is I'm taking other colors here, just random, like brown, red, and yellow and stuff, and I'm going to kind of spray a pattern on it, because with photogrammetry, the program needs reference points. It needs contrast and reference points. It's not smart at all. All it can look at is unique contrast in each image and make that into a reference point. So unique contrast would be like where a splotch of this yellow paint is on the cheek. The program can see that in every photo and then use that to design the mask. And doing things like this help because it gives it a lot of unique like contrast and things to build it with. And so I'm just going to kind of mark it up with different colors and designs, and even if it's kind of splatters, that's good because the dots kind of help to give it information. That was a lot, but that's fine. Okay, so that, I'm sure, looks pretty random, and it is. It's pretty random. I bet that's shaking the camera a lot. Looks like it's sick or something. White. I'll do some black. Okay, hopefully this should be enough to give it a lot of contrast to work off of. Okay, that should be good. And so this thing only needs a little bit more work. I need to draw some lines on it. Here's a shell that I've already done the photogrammetry process to. And once I draw all these lines on it, it really gives the computer a lot of information to build the model from. And it makes it so easy to just design the model. It's funny. Yeah. It's very easy. Once you've drawn all those lines on the face shell, it's very easy to do the transfer over. I know that's kind of not the most useful information to people that don't have a face shell to begin with, but you can apply it to other things. Like if you have something that you want to put into the computer and kind of clean up, it can help to be able to do that rather than have to just create everything totally from the computer. Because for me, I like to sculpt things with my hands, so I was able to sculpt this face shell shape, and I've already scanned it into the computer now, so I can make my 3D print off of that and not just kind of design it from scratch in the computer, which is less accurate usually. Okay, so yeah, I think for right now, yeah, you know what? I think I'm going to go ahead and probably finish up for that one right now and charge my phone and eat some lunch. But I want to go ahead and pick up later today with MCU stuff again, with sewing the pattern file and all of this. You know, I've got this file that I designed from the last stream. And so I want to pick back up with that. But that's why I did this stream today, was because I know that I can't only focus on that MCU work on the stream, or else it'll look like that's all I'm working on, and then that's definitely not true. These shells are top priority still. So yeah, so that was today's bonus little afternoon stream. I'm glad I could do it a little earlier for you guys that are in different time zones and aren't usually able to see the streams when I post them. Yeah, it's good that I got that feedback, because now I know that that's something I should do every now and then, is do streams earlier in the day, or maybe even in the middle of the night, because everyone has a different time zone. So yeah, so I'll either be on again later, or maybe I won't. I already streamed today, so maybe something will come up, like technically, or something that won't let me stream later today. But I think the fact that I've got this, I basically got 2 hours of streaming in, just in my garage. My lovely, not messy and disgusting at all garage. But yeah, so thanks for tuning in, guys. If you want to like the Facebook page that's linked up to the feed, I'll post more updates and things on that page, because that'll be kind of like the main hub. And then also I appreciate you guys like sharing on different groups and stuff. Anyone that would be interested in these tutorials, that helps me out a lot, and it's a way that you can help me out even more. So cool, yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll maybe be back later today.